Well, good. Had to remember the date there for a second. Hold on. Let's restart that. Let's restart that real quick. Hold on. Rewind it. Well, good Saturday evening, South Carolina weather watchers. I'm your meteorologist, Joseph Peterson, and let's go on and talk about the weather for your Saturday evening going on into the future. We have a lot of stuff that we are going to go on and talk about for tonight, starting off with the title: Could we be seeing a brief taste? A brief taste of fall. And so I think there's a lot of things to kind of go over here for when we are talking about a brief taste of fall. Are we talking about temperatures? Are we talking about rainfall? What kind of aspects are we going to see here? Are we, going to start talking about the tropics a little bit more? Because tropics have, been kind of on a resurgence as well. And so we have a lot of things to kind of go in and talk about, but there are a couple of things that we're going to talk about as well besides just that. Shower and thunderstorm activity capable of locally heavy rainfall continues into this evening. Drier and milder Sunday and Monday. Typical summer pattern returns midweek, and higher coverage of shower and storm activity possible later into the week and into next weekend. So, all of that we're going to go in and talk about and bring in the main concerns, the main aspects of what's going to happen. So, if you have not hit the like button yet or the subscribe button yet, please go in and do so. Right now, we have around a good 5, 6 people who have been here so far, and we only have 2 likes. So if you're a part of that group that have not hit the like button yet, please go in and do so. It's free, and it always will be. We're going to start off here with what is currently going on, and as we can see, there are a couple of things going on. We have a severe thunderstorm warning over here inside of Charleston County going into Colleton County. This is also for Beaufort County as well. This is Hollywood, Ravenel, Megget, Jacksonboro, going into Green Pond and Whitehall in South Carolina. This is for 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts that will be moving through over the next hour. Another thing that you may also be seeing is 2 individual flash flood warnings. 2 individual flash flood warnings. We had a huge, and when I say huge, I mean a huge amount of flash flooding ongoing in areas of I-26. Here's a video right here. I-26 here at the Ashley Phosphate exit. And it was a bunch of rainfall. And this was heading down into downtown Charleston, as downtown Charleston also is under a flash flood warning as well. You can see easily people who have their hazard lights on. Good amount of people have their headlights on, which is fantastic. Love to see that. And then just traveling along at, a kind of normal pace, but you can definitely tell that people are going slower than usual, not as fast as they would usually go if it was a regular dry day, which makes sense. Also seeing some lightning flashes kind of going on. So this was kind of all of what we were looking at as we go over into like the past 2 hours or so, what we've been seeing. And so this is, still not going on right now, but there is still some standing water going on. Like for example, Northwoods Mall, that area had cars that were completely submerged in water. Downtown Charleston probably has some areas of concern as well. And then there's just some flooding going on in some of these other areas to the west, in Ravenel, Hollywood, Adams Run, going over just to the south of Walterboro. So there's a lot of flooding going on in the low country. And so if we take a look at that excessive rainfall threat for tonight, we know that even though it was a 5% risk and it's low, every flash flood risk we need to take seriously. It doesn't matter what it is. And I say it all the time. It doesn't matter if it's a 5%, a 2%, a 1%, or whatever it may be. If you have a flash flood risk, you have to take it seriously, because stuff like this can happen. Now, if we go in and take a look at everybody else, there is some rainfall activity going on right now near Georgetown, going up into Myrtle Beach, Murrells Inlet, and then also a thunderstorm going just to the east of Hopewell, going towards Garden City Beach and Plantersville right now. But overall, rainfall activity kind of just going on all over, kind of just like isolated and scattered throughout the PD and the Grand Strand. But then look at the Midlands and the Upstate. Nice and dry, not seeing any rainfall going on right now. Now, what about for the entire U.S.? We do have some rainfall activity with some flooding activity going on in Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, Texas, going on over into pretty much most of the West. We seeing shower and storm activity. We also see some more shower activity going on in Michigan, going on over in Wisconsin. Now, in terms of cloud cover right now, obviously most of us, especially in the low country and the Grand Strand, the PD, receiving that cloud cover activity, while other areas up in the far upstate, not really receiving much for when it comes to cloud cover at this time. And if we look at our cloud cover for the future, you push this forward into tonight, going over into tomorrow morning. This is 5 a.m., 6 a.m., going all the way to 8 a.m. And you can definitely see cloud cover activity is going on. Not a whole lot, though, moving into tomorrow afternoon here. Here's 12 to 1 o'clock p.m. and cloud cover activity just starts to stretch its way from west to east, and it doesn't really look as bad as you move to around 12 p.m., 1 p.m. here. But watch as we move into around here's 5 p.m., 6 p.m., going all the way through to 8, 9, 10. Cloud cover activity builds exponentially at that point. As we move into the Sunday evening time frame, we go over into Sunday night, and then as we move over into Monday morning, cloud cover activity still seems present even during the afternoon hours there. Now, what about for our current temperatures right now? We're talking about 80, Beaufort, even around 79 in Charleston, 78 in Somerville, as well as 79 in Georgetown, 79 Myrtle Beach, and 77 in Conway, 82 Columbia, and 81 in Newberry, 81 in Greenville, as well as 80 in Spartanburg, Gaffney, 79, York, 78 also in Rock Hill, 82 in Clemson. And then if we go on and take a look at our air quality map here, it looks like that the majority of us are inside of that moderate category, so not too bad, but not too good either if you're in the yellow. And if you're not in the yellow, you're good. You don't have to worry about anything there. Low temperatures for tonight, we're talking about 67 in Greenville, 67 in Spartanburg, as well as 68 in Rock Hill, 73 in Columbia, and even 72 in Orangeburg, Moncks Corner, Walterboro, 76 in Charleston, and 72 in Georgetown, 74 Myrtle Beach, and also 75 in Hilton Head Island. High temperatures for tomorrow, it's going to be hot once again. Going to be hot once again for a lot of areas in the low country. 95 in Walterboro, 93 Charleston, 94 Moncks Corner. But then as you move into the upstate areas like 90 in Greenville, 89 Spartanburg, 89 in Rock Hill, even 91 in Dillon. You know, it's not going to be as hot, but it is still going to be pretty warm regardless, no matter where you are. Heat index values for tomorrow in the low country, it could get up to around 105, 106, 107, somewhere around there as you move into tomorrow. So make sure that you're paying attention for that as we move into that time frame. And now, in terms of rainfall for the next 24 hours, obviously you can see that there are areas, for example, like Charleston, 100th of an inch to a 10th of an inch. That's not true, obviously. This map does not include flash flooding really with it, so when you see like 100th of an inch to a 10th of an inch, you're talking about areas like in Spartanburg, like Rock Hill, like Barnwell, Moncks Corner, Charleston, Myrtle Beach, have that 100th of an inch to a 10th of an inch. But then in Georgetown, for example, you have a 10th of an inch to a quarter of an inch in Georgetown. Maybe even other areas like in Spartanburg and Rock Hill, where it says 100th of an inch to a 10th of an inch. Those may be correct, but if flash flooding doesn't occur, it definitely can. Now, even without flash flooding, some areas could see maybe a quarter of an inch to a half an inch of rainfall. Now, for the crazy score, this is what we are currently looking at right now in terms of the crazy score. We're at a 78. We are pretty high up right now. That is just because of all of the severe weather that we are seeing right now. We're seeing a bunch of flash flooding. We are seeing right now a good amount of cloud cover. All of that kind of adds up with one another. And so right now we're at a 78 right now in terms of the score. And we are seeing severe weather right now impacting South Carolina. A couple of severe thunderstorm warnings, some flash flood warnings, and then also flood advisories going on. Now, severe weather-wise, we're not done, but even if you are inside the light green, you technically do have a risk of severe weather because there is a severe thunderstorm warning down there in the low country. But as you can see, up there in the dark green, like northern Pickens County, northern Greensville County, northern Spartanburg County, those areas were in the main risk of damaging winds of up to 60 miles per hour for today. And there was a severe thunderstorm warning that was in those areas. There was a severe thunderstorm warning that was going on in those areas. But just because the light green is there and technically no severe weather is really expected doesn't mean that it's still not possible, especially during the summertime. And so this is what we're kind of looking at here in terms of severe weather activity for us. Now, as we go over into tomorrow, again, severe weather is possible. Areas like in the Low Country, the Southern Midlands, the PD, and the Grand Strand areas. Those areas do have a marginal risk of severe weather for tomorrow. This is for, you probably can easily guess, a 5% risk of damaging winds, as it always seems to happen that way for some reason, but 5% risk of damaging winds, no threat of hail or tornadoes at all. So that's what we're looking at for tomorrow. Make sure that you are prepared for any sort of isolated damaging winds of up to 60 miles per hour in these areas in the dark green. And even if you're just in the light green, watch for some strong storms. If you're not inside the light green or the dark green, you're in the none category. No thunderstorms are expected for you, but it's summertime. So we know how, summer can be sometimes, with it being potentially a little bit more active and a little bit more stronger with those storms. And then for Monday, little marginal risk of severe weather over there for the coastal areas, down there for the coastal low country, Charleston, going over into Hilton Head Island. So that's what we're looking at here in terms of Monday. Everybody else, light green, risk of regular thunderstorms. Excessive rainfall wise, we do have, obviously, that risk of excessive rainfall for tonight. Tomorrow, no risk. Monday, no risk. Tuesday, no risk. Wednesday, isolated flash flooding possible up here for the upstate areas like Anderson, Clemson, Easley, Pickens, Walhalla. Those areas have a 5% risk of flash flooding, while everybody else has just a regular 0% risk. There's no risk of flash flooding, but that can change. Or at least less than a 5% risk of flash flooding technically. So let's go on now and take a look at the models. Time is at the bottom part of your screen. Please make sure that you pay attention to that, as that is very important to do so. Very, very, very important to do so. And so, just as we go on and push this forward here to around 9 p.m. all the way to 10 p.m., we still will have shower and storm activity in areas of the low country, still maybe in areas of the upstate, maybe in the PD, the Grand Strand. This rainfall is not going to be done by 10 o'clock p.m. tonight. But as we move to around 12 a.m., going all the way into 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., a lot of that shower and storm activity gets out. It's gone, not paying attention to it anymore. But then as we move to around 12 o'clock p.m., now we're starting to see, again, a lot of that shower and storm activity towards our east, not really impacting us as much. But a good amount of dry air kind of influencing as we move over into Sunday afternoon here. Now, what happens as we get a little bit further? So we're going to go to the 18Z. And just as we move this a bit further, we're still seeing shower activity. We're still seeing storm activity throughout areas of the Midlands, the Low Country, the PD, Grand Strand. Goes all the way through the evening, goes into the nighttime hours as well. And honestly, things look pretty active as we move into Sunday night and Monday morning. Monday morning comes along, going into Monday afternoon, and things still look pretty, honestly, just pretty active. Now, what's on tap, based off of the National Weather Service forecast, it was supposed to be a drier and a milder Sunday and Monday, but the HRRR obviously does not agree with that really, and still has a good amount of shower and storm activity kind of going on tomorrow and Monday. Now, if we go in and take a look and see how much rainfall could potentially fall over this period of time, now this does go all the way back to 3 p.m. today, but, with that included, you still see some areas that could see, what is that, like 7 inches of rainfall? And a lot of that rainfall falling, a good amount of that rainfall trying to fall tomorrow, maybe going in tomorrow night, going into Monday. We see a good amount, maybe close to 6 inches down there, close to Georgetown. Will that happen? Maybe, maybe not. Areas of Columbia, maybe 1/10 of an inch, 2/10 of an inch over there near Sumter. Some areas up in northern Greenville County may get an inch or so. But again, this is more of just an estimation. This may happen, this may not happen. And as you can see, some areas may receive no rainfall. That is obviously possible. So as we go over into the long-term future, we move this over into Monday afternoon. We see that not much is really happening, continuing on for the rest of Monday according to the GFS, but again, that is just the GFS, and the GFS obviously is the long-term model here. But even as we go over into Tuesday, as we go over into Wednesday, we see a good amount of shower activity, good amount of storm activity kind of going on, kind of around us, definitely in the southeast, and this is kind of the pattern that we're looking at with that trough kind of digging down, and the pattern kind of showing a more hotter, more drier conditions out there in the west, while over here in the east, we're seeing more active weather. This was expected. And we get back to that summer pattern, especially by midweek. But as we go into Friday, going into Saturday, so around 7 days out from now, even going into Sunday, still seeing a lot of active activity. So if you have any outdoor plans this week, or next week, you definitely want to make sure that you're paying attention to the weather here. And then as you go into Sunday and Monday of the week after next week, we're still talking about active conditions and active shower, active storm activity, and maybe active system activity with a good amount of troughs trying to bring in some excessive rainfall, maybe some severe weather on the backside with it. So we have a lot to kind of go over here for when it goes over around 384 hours or so. But according to the GEFS doesn't really like the idea too much of a good amount of rainfall happening up there in the upstate. Yeah, it shows maybe an inch or so, maybe an inch and 3/4 or so. But the main thing that I'm kind of noticing here is that if you look at areas like the Myrtle Beach area, 3.5 inches, Charleston, 2 inches, Columbia, 2 inches, Florence, 2.5. That's a good amount of rainfall right there. But why is the upstate going to the northern Midlands getting, kind of just trampled with? We're not really trampled with, but just kind of forgotten about for when it comes to this rainfall. Now, this could just be the GEFS just kind of showing a more bias towards the eastern areas. And obviously, as we know, the GEFS, this is an average over the next 384 hours. So just because it says an inch in 8/10 doesn't mean that you're going to receive 1.8 inches of rainfall. It just means as an average over the next 384 hours, that is just what the models are saying at that time. But for right now, why is it kind of a bit more on the lower side? And the European is the same way. European is the same way. Have some areas, receiving around 3.5, maybe even 3.8, 3.9 inches of rainfall over here in the eastern parts towards the coastal areas. But look in the upstate, 1.4, 1.5, 1.3 in some spots. Again, I know that that's a good amount of rainfall for an average basis, but honestly, with all of this activity that we're going to start seeing for when it comes to troughs, for when it comes to just the multitude of storm systems and just obviously daily summertime shower and storm activity, why is it this low? But, and we compare it, for example, let's go back to the GFS real quick. I know that this is a bit of a long ways out, but if you go in and take a look at the total precipitation range for the next 364 hours, look at the GFS 384 hours out into the future. Look at the upstate, 0.2 inches of rainfall. 0.2. That's it. Just 0.2 inches of rainfall for areas of the upstate as we go over into the next 384 hours. If that is the case right there, I know that obviously we've been seeing this drought kind of go away a little bit, but that's not good. That's definitely not good at all. And, the drought there's still a little bit of a drought up there right now. And so if you only receive 0.2 inches of rainfall, some people even less than that, 0.1 inches of rainfall up there in the upstate, that's not going to be good. Not going to be good at all. And you're going to start seeing that drought trying to stay the same, if not expand a little bit. And we want to see this drought get out of here as quickly as we can. Now, good news for areas like in the red areas, like the low country and in the Grand Strand areas, but those areas are going to receive probably the most amount of rainfall over the next 384 hours. So that's where the majority of the drought is. So, if this was to happen in one side of the state to where you don't really receive a lot of rainfall, it probably would be the upstate, but still, I think that the upstate area should see maybe just a little bit more rainfall than what, the main ensemble was saying with like an inch or so of rainfall, 1 to 2 inches. And I think that with flash flooding, it definitely will be more as well. But that's pretty much all I had to say there in terms of rainfall. Really, the main thing that we need to take away there is that the upstate may not be receiving as much rainfall compared to the like low country, the more Grand Strand, like just the coastal areas really in general. But let's go in and talk about temperatures now, because this is kind of really where that main could we be seeing a brief taste of fall comes in, because these temperatures, as we move on into around the next, honestly, week or so, we could really be talking about a good cool down here. I know there was, I believe, some areas, I think Columbia was one of those areas. I don't even think they saw 90 degrees today. I'm pretty sure. That was the report that they put out at the National Weather Service office. I don't think that they even reached 90 degrees. So a bit more of a shock there, because honestly, I believe the forecast for today kind of had them near 90 degrees, if not a little bit more. But they didn't even reach 90 at all. They were stuck in the 80s. So that was a bit of that was kind of the cool down that we've been kind of taking like a look at and keeping that eye on. But if we go over here to Monday, for example, going into Tuesday, things are going to start warming up. We're going to be about 15, 13 degrees above average or so in areas like the low country, the Grand Strand areas, and things are going to get, back to being like above average. But then watch as we go over into Tuesday, watch as we go over into Wednesday. You see that warmer air here, and we're around 10, still 10 to 15 degrees above average. But if you look in other areas, around 3 to 7 degrees above average, 8 to 9 degrees above average. And so you also see as we go into Thursday and into Friday a little bit of some cooler air trying to move in. And so you don't really see widespread 15 to 20 degrees above average like we saw, for example, earlier this week, like Monday and Tuesday, to where we're up to around 110, 115, 120, close to 120 in some spots for temperatures. You're not seeing that. You're not seeing that at all. And these cool downs that are going to keep coming time after time after time is going to continue to go on and just try and bring those temperature averages down, going to continue to try and bring just joy, for example, to the people who love cooler weather. And take a look, for example, at our actual temperatures here as we move over into like Monday. For example, here's Monday afternoon, 94, 95. It's still summertime. I mean, we got to keep that in mind. It's still summertime. It's not fall yet. And we need to just just as we move later on into the week, kind of watch and monitor to see how those temperatures play out. But as you go over into Tuesday, we're around lower 90s, higher 80s. A little bit of a better kind of scenario here. Then as we go over into Wednesday and Thursday, things are still in the 90s for the most part. Thursday looks a lot better as well. And Friday, lower 90s, maybe some areas not even trying to get into the 90s. And so the question of, is it starting to feel like fall yet? And just as we push this even into, for example, the first week of September, you remember the first week of September, things were supposed to be a bit more on the cooler side, but the GFS is kind of taking a little bit of a turn here, saying that the beginning of September actually may be hot instead, but then shows a huge cool down coming in, bringing us into the mid 80s, like a big cold front. That probably one of the strongest cold fronts we've seen in a minute, early September, really setting the tone for the first meteorological day of fall there. So we'll see what kind of happens here as we move later on, especially into early parts of September. But right now we're a bit too far out. It's just a bit too far out right now. But if we go on and just take a look and kind of go back to that question of, could we be seeing a brief taste of fall? I think, in a sense, cooler temperatures, and especially with some areas like in the upstate, seeing more of those cooler, like into like the high 80s or so. Is it fall? No. I mean, definitely not fall. This is not fall-like temperatures yet. This is not peak fall. But I think that these temperatures could start to show like beginning of fall type weather. Not prime fall type weather, but definitely beginning of fall type weather here. And so, technically, yes, kind of a brief taste, but also kind of not the prime aspect of fall like some people may be thinking. But let's go on and take a look real quick one more time at the temperature side of things. But we're going to go into the ensembles. So we're going to take a look at 200 plus hours out, for example. I'm going to move this over here. And just as we push this forward into the week after next week, we're looking at, still into the 90s or so in terms of averages. But watch as we get into September, we're still averaging temperatures in the lower 90s, still averaging temperatures in the high 80s. And then as we move even into around, for example, here is September the 6th, we're still trying to get into that low 90, high 80, if not mid 80 degree range. So we're kind of just staying more in that boundary layer as we move. Now, we will have days to where we're going to be above that, lower than that. As it is, this is just an average. This is not an actual deterministic one singular model pull. The GFS earlier, just the one singular model itself, kind of showed us that it was, that we may still see some days to where we're high 90s, maybe even low 100s. So are we done with the 100s? Possibly not. Possibly not. But that's pretty much the main thing that I had to really touch on here in terms of temperature-wise. Brief taste of fall, technically, yes, but it may not be here for the rest of summer here. It may not be here for the rest of summer. Now, we have some stuff to talk about for when it does come to the tropics. So you can see right now, here on the screen, we have 3 areas that we are watching for. If you remember area number 1, this was the area over here in the northeastern Atlantic that could acquire some subtropical or tropical characteristics later today or tomorrow while it moves east-southeast towards Portugal and northeastern Spain. The opportunity for a tropical or subtropical development could or should end Sunday night when the system encounters unfavorable environmental conditions. So we are right now seeing this thing kind of continue its way over into the east and not impact the US at all, but could impact areas over there in Europe, later on next week. Then we have disturbance 2. This area popped up today. A trough of low pressure located over the central subtropical Atlantic, a few hundred miles east of Bermuda, is producing disorganized shower and thunderstorm activity. Development of this system, if any, is expected to be slow to occur while it drifts west through Sunday and then accelerates north by the early next week. So this is, again, has no threat to South Carolina at all. This is going to just continue to move its way up to the north, and this has only a 20% chance of forming over the next 7 days. And then disturbance number 3, this is the one that I'm kind of watching. In the eastern tropical Atlantic, a tropical wave is expected to move off the west coast of Africa on Monday. An area of low pressure could form in association with the wave soon after it moves off the coast. So soon as it moves off, it could form into something or try to form. And then this has a 40% chance of forming over the next 7 days, no chance over the next 48 hours. So a lot going on in terms of the tropics, but when you really look at it at a more technical scale and really what's going to impact us here potentially in South Carolina, it's only one, and these other 2 don't really mean too much. Now, they just updated it actually about an hour ago or so, and honestly nothing else has really changed. Everything else is still the same. So that update that I was looking at was the 1 o'clock p.m. update, but the 7 o'clock p.m. update still shows barely the same thing. Maybe a little bit of a difference in terms of the shape, but overall, nothing else really changed. Now, let's go on and take a look real quick at the ensembles to see what they say about this system over here in the eastern tropical Atlantic potentially later on. We go on and take a look right here at the official Euro AI model here, and you just push it forward. There goes the main system right here, pushing its way over towards the west. And it has a couple of them kind of going on, but I mean, it kind of has it curving its way up towards the north. But you do have a couple. You do have a couple that actually tries to stay. It may cause some issues to South Carolina down the line. So this is something maybe we may have to actually watch for as we move into, what is this, No, this is November. This is early November here. So we could be talking about something here into early, did I say November or September? September is what I meant if I said November by accident. September, early September here. And so even if we go on and take a look at the actual European model itself, you go on and push this forward, shows all of this shower activity, all of this low pressure activity moving its way up towards the north and curving before it can even really make any sort of impact to South Carolina, except for maybe rip currents. But that's it. But look, it has another area trying to come off right behind it. And then finally, the GEFS here, this one, not really showing too much except for it trying to curve up towards the north, kind of like how the European was doing. But the Euro AI gets it kind of close, but the GEFS and the European kind of has more of a stronger scenario and kind of has it curving more towards the north. And so we can make that inference that even if you look at the Euro AI, for example, look at these areas over here in the yellow. The yellow, that's the stronger part of, that's like the storm getting stronger, and that's the storm being stronger, for example, than the green ones over here. You see how the green ones and the blue ones kind of tend to get more of a track kind of towards the west. Now you have a couple that, go off towards the east, and it's overall a bit mixed, but it seems like that the stronger ones want to try and curve up towards the north and east kind of quicker. Same thing with the European. European kind of has it going up towards the northeast quicker when it gets stronger. The GEFS, guess what? The GEFS has the same thing. The stronger storms get up to the north quicker. And so it seems like that the stronger that this storm prevails and like the stronger that this storm gets, the more that it's going to want to try and go its way up north quicker. And so really, if this storm does get going a lot quicker and gets stronger quicker, not really too much of a concern. But if it gets weaker, may not be the best scenario. Still, and it can definitely still intensify even as you move towards the coast even more. But that's pretty much all I have to say here in terms of the tropics. So let's go on now and talk with the audience. If you want to be a part of the audience, you can by joining us here at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Let's see what the audience has to say for tonight. Starting off with my Aunt Lula first. She says, good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. Today's high in Georgetown was 88. Felt like 99. Currently at 76. We did get 0.39 inches. Again, 0.39 inches of rain showers for today. Well, at my house, it's currently raining. I don't know if you guys hear the thunder or not, but it is currently raining at my house right now, even if I go in and check out the radar. Yeah, it is raining right now. And it's around 74 degrees right now. Right now, 0.57 inches of rainfall has fallen at my house. And the high temperature today was around 92 degrees. Now,